Good evening. Hello, everyone. I'm Lan Samantha, and for joining this Cleveland Book Week event, Asia Town. I want to thank our partners and hosts for this event. And those hosts include Asia Plaza, as well as the Hom family, Ed, Randy, and Steve. If you're here, thank you so much. I also want to acknowledge the native land where we are gathered today. It's the traditional homeland of the Lenape, Shawnee, Wyandot, Miami, Ottawa, Potawatomi, and other Great Lakes tribes. Their native stewardship makes our presence in this space possible, and we recognize the thousands of their descendants who continue to live here now. So in celebration of the Mid-Autumn Festival, and as a warm welcome to Professor Chang, please enjoy a performance from the amazing Lingyun Rising Star School and Stellar Acrobatic Dance Academy.
Hello everybody. As she said, we're from the Stellar Acrobatic Dance Academy. We're a non-profit organization located here in Cleveland with the mission to provide an excellent dance cultural education to children. If you are at all interested in that, you can visit our website at www.stellardanceco.org. Today we have a series of dances from the story of Changa flying to the moon, which is the origin of the Moon Festival, which coincidentally is today. Please enjoy.
Long ago, the world was peaceful and bountiful. The 10 sons took it in turns to warm the land. The famous archer, Hu Yi, and his beautiful wife, Chang'e, lived peaceful and prosperous lives. After a while, the sons stopped taking turns. They began to appear in the sky all together. The heat became overwhelming. Crops could no longer grow. All across the land, people began to starve. Hu Yi took up his bow and began to shoot down the sons. He did not stop until the scorching heat subsided, and he had shot down all but one of the sons. For saving the world, Hu Yi was rewarded with an elixir of immortality, which he left with Chang'e. Hearing of the prize, one of Hu Yi's former students, the scheming Fa, tried to steal the elixir when he was away. Seeing no other way to keep it from falling, she drank it. After drinking the elixir, it began to have a profound effect on Chang'e. Began to transform. Becoming immortal meant that she could no longer live on Earth. She began to float up into the sky. Higher and higher she flew until finally reaching the moon. Although the new goddess of the moon was now separated from humanity, she would not be alone. The jade rabbit would always be there to keep her company. Even to this day, we can look up at the full round moon and see Chang'e looking back at us. The story of Chao has been told for over 2,000 years. It is told slightly differently depending on where, when, or even who is telling it. It is tied to the celebration of the Mid-Autumn Festival, also called the Moon Festival.
Hello. Thank you all for coming out to see us today. You are a great audience. if you'd like to see more of what we do, if you like what you saw today, you can visit our website at www.stellardanceco.org. We also have various performances around the year in the local area, and also have a Happy Moon Festival.
And it's difficult to follow such an amazing performance. Once again. So I'm very excited to hear directly from Professor Chang about her book, The Family Chao. And although this book may have some plot parallels with Dostoevsky's The Brothers Karamazov, the point of view of the characters in a story about a family that runs a Chinese restaurant in the small Midwest town, I think, could only be shared so authentically and creatively by a writer like Professor Chang. Through her storytelling, it's clear that she understands the experience of growing up American war Chinese. So while the main characters in the book are men, Professor Chang gives very individualized space for the female characters who are so important to the story. Even though The Family Chao is a work of fiction, the characters are so well developed that we feel like we know them and understand what motivates their behaviors. Although I did not consider the book to be quote-unquote comical as some have described it, I believe that Professor Chang had a lot of fun with choosing the name of the family as Chao, which she frequently used to describe the family in the plural as quote-unquote the Chaos. And I do not think it is coincidence that the plural spelling of the family name is spelled C-H-A-O-S, which is the same as chaos. But the only wonder that I had after reading the book was whether there was any consideration of the family dog Alf playing a different role in the plot besides a place for underscoring some different beliefs about Asians and dogs. Joyce Carol Oates called The Family Chao an outstanding work of fiction, saying she had read nothing else of late as ambitious or accomplished. It is my honor and privilege to welcome Professor Chang to Cleveland and to congratulate her on her Anisfield-Wolf Book Award for The Family Chao. Please join me in welcoming.
Thanks so much, Elaine, for that wonderful introduction, and thank you to the members of the Anisfield-Wolf jury and the people there, including Kara Long, who's right there in the front row, Courtney. So for us to have this lovely event, I'm deeply happy to be presenting to you all here in this space. As a person born in the year of the dragon, it's awesome to see a dragon there, sort of like with its mouth open and aimed at me. I want to talk, I'm going to read a bit from this book, and then maybe say a few words about what it was like to write the book. And then I'd like to answer questions, any questions that y'all might have. One of the things that strikes me about this space is it feels like a community. And when I grew up in Appleton, Wisconsin, we didn't have a Chinese community for a long time. I was one of 4 daughters in the first family of Chinese people or any Asian people to live in Appleton, Wisconsin. And we were like pioneers. I think it's one of the reasons I liked reading books about the pioneers so much, because I felt like we were modern day pioneers. We had to find our own food sources. We did a lot of creative cooking and gardening. And my parents had come to this country because they wanted the best for us. And their big goal was that all 4 of their daughters would become doctors and that they would be happy and all of us would never have a problem again for the rest of our lives. But as it turns out, only one of my sisters became a doctor. One of them was a lawyer, and there's me, the artistic weirdo. But it's a lot of this particular book is a kind of homage to the chaotic and lively, problematic life that my family lived in Appleton. We weren't the sort of stereotypical, quietly suffering, sacrificing immigrants. We were talkative, loud, noisy, we lived lives of noisy desperation. That's what I would tell people. And so I wanted to write a book that reflected some of that story. So I'm just going to start to read to you from the very beginning of the book, so that you don't need to know anything here. This is the Family Chao, and the first section of the book is called They See Themselves. For 35 years, everyone supported Liu Chao's restaurant, introducing choosy newcomers by showing off some real Chinese food in Haven, Wisconsin. Bringing children, parents, grandparents, not wanting to dine out with the Americans, not wanting to think about which fork to use. You could see the manifold tensions of life in a new country, the focus on the future, tracking incremental gains and losses, were relieved by the fine child. Sitting down under the dusty red lanterns, gazing at Leo's latest calendar with the lip-haired Taiwanese sylphs that Winnie hated so much, waiting for supper, everyone felt calm. In dark times, when you're feeling homesick or defeated, there's really nothing like a good steaming soup and dumplings made from scratch. I will say that I was incredibly thrilled with the food, and especially the scallion pancakes, which have been a favorite of mine since I was a child. I do feel in a way that we should give a round of applause. Yeah, just really nice. So I'll keep going. Winnie and Big Liu Chao were serving scallion pancakes decades before you could find them outside of a home kitchen. Leo, 35 years ago, winning his first poker game against the owners of a local poultry farm, exchanged his chips for birds that Winnie transformed into the shiny, chestnut-colored duck dishes of far-off cities. Dear Winnie, rolling out ravine the homemade way, 2 pads of dough together with the seal oil in between, letting them rise to a steaming bubble in the piping pan. Leo bargaining for hard-to-get ingredients, Winnie supping wax beans for yard-long beans, plus home-growing the garlic beans, chives, and hot peppers you used to never find in Haven, their garden giving off a glorious smell. You could say the community ate its way through the Chao family's distress, not knowing whether Winnie was happy or whether Big Chao was an honest man. Everyone took all the food in one side of their mouths, and from the other side they extolled the parents for their sons' accomplishments, heaping praise upon the 3 boys who grew up all bright and ambitious, who earned scholarships to good colleges, commending them for leaving the Midwest. Yet everyone was thankful when the oldest, Dao Chao, returned to Haven. Dao, coming home to his mother, moving into the apartment over the restaurant, working there 6 days a week. Dao, the most passionate cook in the town. Despite the trouble between Winnie and Big Chao, Everyone assumed the business would be handed down fairly, peacefully, father to son. Now, the year after the shave, the itinerant and scandalous events that began on a winter evening in Union Station, the community defends its 35-year indifference to the Chao family's troubles by saying, "No one could have believed that such good food was cooked by a mad person." There's a little bit I'm going to skip over in which James, who's the son, the youngest son, the one we're going to follow, he's coming home for winter break to see his family. And he's in the train station when an older Chinese man asks him for help. The thing to know about James is that James does not speak Chinese. He just looks like he speaks Chinese. And so the old man sees them and wants to know where he needs to be going in the train station. And James can't help him. And he furthermore, despite the fact that he wants to be a doctor and he's in pre-med studies at college, he's unable to help the old man when he has a heart attack in the train station. And so he's very upset when he gets home. It's comforting for him to see his father. And so I'm going to read this chapter in which he goes back to the family restaurant and his dad is there watching TV. It's pretty late at night. And this chapter is called The Dog Father. Entering the fine Chao restaurant through the back door, James passes on his left the stairs to the basement, and on his right, the restaurant office with its old television murmuring. Next is the kitchen, where nothing has changed in 15 years. There's the bulletin board covered with scraps of paper, yellowing with age. These are the notes Leo and Winnie Chao wrote to each other over the decades. When they fought, these missives were a primary method of communication. The other was to use the children as messengers. The notes are written sometimes in Chinese and sometimes in English in order to confuse the workers. There's also a schedule now 18 years old of Dago's high school orchestra rehearsals. And from the time even before that, from before when James was born, there's a list of frequently requested items in Chinese and English. Egg rolls, wontons, pot stickers, crab grangoles. What are these, Winnie? Their mother annotated in Chinese. Their father wrote underneath, wontons filled with cream cheese and beef with broccoli. Following a scattershot statistical analysis, Winnie had also compiled a list of things Americans like to eat. Large chunks of meat. Wontons and noodles together, and it was a zany soup. Pea pods and green beans, carrots, broccoli, and baby corn, but no other vegetables. Ribs or chicken wings, beef with broccoli again. Chicken with peanuts in everything. And chop suey. What is this? Leo wrote. I don't know, Winnie wrote. Anything with shrimp. The rest of them cannot eat shrimp, she'd animated. Be careful. Anything from the deep fryer. Anything with the sweet and sour sauce. Anything with a thick brown sauce. And there it is, of course, the list of things Americans didn't like. Meat on the bone, except ribs or chicken wings. Rice porridge and fermented soybeans. In a small fridge for Louise, there are containers of stir-fried vegetables kept separate by Olan, the one from Guangzhou, who is one of 3 outside kitchen employees and who doesn't eat meat. Beers for JJ, second chef, and for Lulu, the other server, and Dago's personal stash of pork with jiaocai noodles. James heats a pile of pork and noodles on the stove. He's starving. As he transfers the food into a bowl, a pounding noise comes from below. It's the sound of his father, Leo, Big Chao, coming up the stairs, footsteps that reverberate and thump with the authority of a man larger than he actually is. To these footsteps is added deep and resonant grumbling, profanity growing more audible until, When he reaches the top of the stairs, a full question detaches himself and sinks into the kitchen in a ringing baritone. Who's coming to clean up half an hour after the blows? James abandons his dinner, edges into the hallway. Baba, it's me. He's the only son who still calls Leo Baba, which Dago shortened to Bob, and Ming changed to Dad. Sometimes his brothers refer to Leo as Aw, gee, Pops, and this is one of the only jokes they share. Oh, it's you, Leo yells, emerging into the hall. I smelled those disgusting Joe-Thai noodles and thought it was your worthless brother, but it's you. He grins, delighted, and claps James on the shoulder. He is a sturdy, vigorous man with tadpole eyes and a dark, strong-featured face thickened by food and living. James catches a whiff of cooking grease, pipe tobacco, and stale clothes. Your hands are cold, he says, pushing away an image of the man in Union Station. I was in the basement, freezer room, picking up something for tomorrow. Over Leo's shoulder is slung a restaurant delivery bag. You shouldn't go down there when there's no one else in the building. The freezer door locks automatically. It's not a code, Robin. It's fine, his father says. Jerry Stewart worked his magic with the city inspector. I told your big brother study law, but he doesn't listen. Majors in music. Now baby Mozart's paying off his loans, cooking for Americans. Like the rest of the community, Leo uses the term American to describe any outsider. The term is half ironic, half utilitarian. James is disappointed Dago isn't here to welcome him home. He doesn't dare ask his father where Dago is, doesn't want to provoke him. But Leo, guessing his thoughts, says, your worthless brother's making out with his new girlfriend, or getting ready for his big show Dago tomorrow. He gestures to the hall. Come to my office. I got something strong for you. The office is crammed with detritus from 35 years of business, including an ancient adding machine and a naked, fake Christmas tree. James sits in his mother's old chair, his father in a recliner. Leo catches James's eye, shoots him a flare of approval, and despite all they have said, James feels a metabolic, answering spark of happiness, kinship, recognition. Try this. Leo Chao pulls out a tumbler to James. Did you get this from those guys you know in Chicago? James asks, eyeing the unmarked bottle on Leo's desk. Yeah, this is the real thing. As James lifts up the glass, a hideous, pungent odor of fruity, rotten socks pervades his sinuses. He squeezes his eyes shut, sips, and lets an awful taste spread over his tongue. Ha! Look at that! His father gestures at the television. There's nothing on the screen except a fenced patio with an open gate, and then an animal lumbers onto the patio, sniffing at the fence. It's a yearling deer, burnished brown. There's no mistaking its thick, furry body, the bulk of its rear end, its hemi yet clownish rolling walk. A small, stocky black creature torpedoes down a staircase. The creature barks wildly, growling and snapping at the bear, which, after a moment's stunned confusion, rises up on its hind legs in dismay. Like a black streak, the dog chases the bear up and down the patio, lunging and nipping at its heels. Panicking, the bear clambers over the fence. The dog, tail up, remains in the patio. Ha! Leo emits a deep belly laugh. You see that? Just like the Alf, French bulldog, best breed in the world. James hands him back the tumbler. Baba, he says, you know Dago isn't worthless. He can really cook. In the pause that follows, James wonders if he's angered his father, but when Leo Chao speaks, his tone is genial. Maybe not worthless, he says, but he has an inferiority complex. You American-born Chinese, so timid and brainwashed, will do anything for a woman who will give you a good lay. Did his father just change the subject, or is it all part of the same argument? James doesn't know. Leo hands the tumbler back. James takes another tiny, careless sip. He is timid with girls. Is this why he's halfway through his freshman year in college and still a virgin? All you ABCs, you think since you're not here first, since you have different eyes of dicks, you're not good enough for screwing around. You got it backwards. We came to America to colonize the place for ourselves. That means spraying a seed, opportunity for screwing. You know what the biggest disappointment of my life? Seeing my oldest son whipped by one white woman. He frowns at the TV. Its dim light flickers over his features. My stinking son. Being watched by his mother and teachers, they say, you're special. Ha! You can do anything you want. Nobody can do anything they want. Do you think I want this dog's life? No, I do what I have to do. But my oldest son, he's trying to find in himself. What's to find? Decides to be a musician. Then he leaves the East Coast with his tail between his legs. He's wasted years of life. He's amazing in the kitchen, James says. They watch images move across the screen. Baba, he says, if you would be anything you want to be in America, then why can't you do what you want? And what if you don't want to be big and rich? What if you want to be small? Is that what you want? Starts Leo. James struggles how to explain to his father what he wants. It's something he has only just begun to put into words, and only to himself. I'm not ambitious like May, he says. I don't want to be super rich or buy expensive real estate. I'm not ambitious like Dabo either. I don't need to be as creative as he is or to make people happy. It's not that I don't want to be interested in my job. I do want to help people, but mostly I want to feel small. To be a small piece in the big mystery of everything. He stops to think, trying to explain his own curious desire. I want to get married and have kids and a dog. I want to walk the dog in the morning, go to work, and come home at night. Mostly what I want is, well, an ordinary life. An ordinary life, Leo smiles in the half-dark. Blood sacrifice, he yells, startling James. I came over in 1972, a pioneer breaking land. I sacrificed myself. Also, my sons could be magnificent. I did all this only to be dog father. Is anyone grateful? We're all grateful. I'm going to die, dog father. I'm going to die, Leo yells, glaring up at James, his mellow fins to a theatrical mew. How was it possible to die so far away from home? The face of the man in the train station appears before him. James closes his eyes. Don't say that, Mauer. Leo huffs. Invisible sparks fly toward the television. Don't worry, he says. I'm not gonna die. No, Baba, James says. Although he knows this is impossible, he believes it. You'll never die. Not me, Leo smiles. Ah, James, my good boy. Not my most accomplished boy. Not my most talented boy. But you're my boy. You love me. Thanks. Okay. So, I'm here to answer any questions you might have. I'm well fed and happy and ready to go. So, does anyone have questions? Is there some kind of problem with a mic? Okay, there's a mic. So if you need the mic. Oh, there's one. Sorry, you got your
Nobody's asking. So, what advice, now that the new immigrants are refugees from Bhutan, so a very different wave of immigrants, what advice do you have? So, one thing, what's the biggest mistake you made in America.
Oh, wow. Okay, I should say I was born here. My parents are the immigrants. What is the biggest mistake I made? Wow, what a great question. I made so many mistakes. I can't even... I wish that I weren't as shy. I mean, I feel like one of the biggest mistakes I made was not to read like Dale Carnegie or something. Because I was pretty shy. And like, I feel like I had so many opportunities. Like that America was this place just filled with opportunities for me. And if I had been just a little less shy, that like many more things, exciting things might be down the road for me and I would have no, idea what they were. But as it was, I was kind of a bookish person. And, sometimes I wonder whether it would be possible to be bookish and also like a little more open to people who like, people who are like me. I grew up really like surrounded by people who weren't like me. And sometimes I wonder if I tried a little harder to understand. Although nobody was trying to understand me. I mean, I do feel like my sort of outside perspective helps me to become a writer. To always try to understand the other person. One of my, a writer I hire, Gisjen calls it mind reading. Like you grow up on the outside and you become a mind reader. But I think, that's one piece of advice, but really specific to me. I don't think most people made the mistakes I did. I guess the thing I would say is I actually do believe that there are a lot of opportunities and that I felt like I spent the first part of my life feeling very anxious. Partly because my parents were so anxious. My parents came here without anything and really just had to make it and send all four of us to college and do all these things. But I actually think there are a lot of, that we could have relaxed a little bit more than we did. We could have enjoyed it a little bit more than we did. Smelled the roses, maybe that's it.
Just curious, you mentioned that your family was the only Asian family in, I forget the name of the town.
Appleton, Wisconsin.
Okay, Wisconsin. How did they get there? How did they pick that place?
Right, good question. My parents came to this country in the 1950s, which was earlier than almost everybody else. And they came because they got scholarships to attend schools here, which someone informed me last night meant that they were really good students. I don't know if it exactly carried down to the next generation, but they are very smart and they. But my dad needed a job that would give him a green card. So after he finished getting his master's degree, he worked for a while in New York City and then, lost his job and cast a white man and found a job doing research in Wisconsin at this place called the Institute of Paper Chemistry. And that is where we went. We moved to Appleton, middle of the winter, which I can't even imagine. I wasn't born yet. And then I was born in Appleton. And my parents stayed there for the rest of their lives. That's how we ended up there. The place changed a lot during the many years, the many decades when my parents were there. 2 other Chinese families moved in. One of them was sort of a Chinese family, and then the other one was another family, the Honks. And so we all grew up. I mean, I remember them from when I was little, playing with the kids. There were only a couple of them. And then the world really opened up, and immigration streams changed, and a lot of engineers came to work at the paper companies in northeastern Wisconsin where we lived. And so there were a lot of engineers from Taiwan. And then after China opened up, which was long into my childhood, after China opened up, people from China. But I mean, like my dad, he spent the years from 1949 until 1978 or something like this, not in communication with this family in China because of the Bamboo Curve. So we felt like very isolated. So that's how they ended up there.
More questions. Yeah, my name is Nico. Actually, I do the Chinese newspaper here. Yesterday I saw you, and just for me, I'm like a parents, the first like coming to the United States, my kids all grew up here. But my question is, you are like ABC, like people say banana or whatever. But the question is, what do you give the good advisor for the ABC since COVID-19? I think whole world is changing, and the people just looking for the money, and the young people only think of two things: money and sex. What is it?
It's COVID. I thought that was a lot before COVID. I don't know. I think the pursuit of money is overrated. Not just by ABCs, but by everybody. Like, I feel, just based on watching my parents' lives of my life, and my family's lives, that, my sisters, that, at least in my case, pursuing money was just never something I did. I never made any of the decisions I made in my life for practical reasons. It kind of drove my parents a little nuts, but I just basically, I decided to be a writer before there were very many Chinese American writers, and I just stuck some money guns because I had no choice. It was all I could think of. I knew that I couldn't do anything more practical. And then it kind of worked out. And so maybe I'm optimistic, but I believe that it's possible to do things that you really want to do and dream of doing. I think is completely doable. And I feel like the educational system, I know it sounds like Pollyanna at the moment. I know there are a lot of things that are problematic about my childhood and about like the childhood of so many people, and I put a lot of it into this book. But if I were to say, like, would I rather be here or somewhere else, I would still rather be here because there's so many educational opportunities, That's over. Yes.
So, Professor, I'm actually reading the book now. I'm enjoying Lynn's reportage of the trial.
Oh. You're more than halfway through.
Yeah.
Here's the home stretch.
Exactly. I found it, as the son of Indian immigrants, I found it difficult to read the scene at the diner with Ming and James. It's hard to read, but is it hard to write because it seems like you're really probing the model minority myth, the fallacy there. Thank you.
Sure. There's a scene between James and his middle brother Ming, the successful brother, in which Ming reveals in a long monologue the disappointments and confusions and stress and pain of his life. I would say that it felt necessary to write. It felt true to me. So in that way, it was not as hard because when you're telling what feels true to you, there's some kind of freeing quality about it. I felt like I had permission, like I just gave myself permission in this book to be as honest as possible. And I knew ladies exist. I know there are bays everywhere. And actually, Ling is one of my favorite characters. So I wanted to give him space to talk about what he'd been through. And that, I felt, was not as hard as it could have been. Yeah. But you have to think about the book that, I'm really, sort of grateful to the jury of the Anisfield-Wolf Book for, accepting the fact that it's not all, cheerful. It's not. It's got a lot of darkness in it, and I wanted that to be there. So yeah. Sure.
Nice. What are you thinking about writing next?
What am I writing next? I remember your shit with your grandmother. Granddaughter, grandmother. What am I gonna write next? Well, okay. I've been obsessed with violinists. My daughter is 16, and she's sort of at this age where she's facing the fact that if you're going to study violin, you really can't study anything else, and trying to figure out how to do that, whether she wants to do that. And I was a violinist as a child. I stopped when I went to college. Then, I just, for some reason, am obsessed. And I think the reason I'm obsessed is that I've been obsessed since childhood with the artistic life. I'm completely obsessed with that which is not material, that which is not quantifiable. Like, in other words, completely impractical. I find there's something, I'm fascinated by what I call in my mind the uncompromised life. Now, what a joke, right? Like, my life is totally compromised. I spend a lot of my time doing a day job that's very exhausting, running the Iowa Writers Workshop. And I also have a husband and child, and I spend a lot of time with them. But I have this fantasy about art monsters. These people who just pursue their art, and who cares about anything else? So I have a feeling I'm going to try to do something about the compromise and the uncompromised life. Yeah. But we'll see, because guess what? I haven't started writing yet. Yeah.
That's a shame. Can you hear me? Of course, it's a saying that Toni Morrison said, that if there's a book that wasn't really written, if there's a book that you want that hasn't been written yet, you must write it. Our question to you is, was that the concept that you were thinking of when you began this project, or was it something else that, I'm just going to write about in light of being my family in these times?
That's a really interesting question. Toni Morrison really puts her figure right up the important place, doesn't she? Yes. I wanted to write a story about Chinese Americans that was loud, and I wanted to write a story that was not entirely cheerful, or, I also didn't want them to be long-suffering. I wanted it to feel like vividly alive to me. I wanted them to step off the page, and I just wanted to write about characters who weren't the typical tropes of sort of silent immigrants, silent Asian American, hardworking, blah, blah, blah. I just wanted to dispel that story, this story. So yeah, that's a good question.
Hi, hello.
Hi.
So I have a question about, we've seen kind of the connection between this story and Brothers Karamazov, and I wondered if you could talk a little bit about your decision to make the fourth child a daughter, and, kind of telling that tale, like an immigrant daughter coming in relation to these American-born men.
This may sound really strange as an answer, but she kind of just stepped out of the mists of my imagination and took over. And I never thought she was ever going to be a boy. She never appeared as a boy. She was always who she was, and I just wrote her down, and she just came in, and the scenes when she's making Ming eat, that just came right out of me, and was I've never met anyone like Olan, but I imagine Olan. I know she exists, So, yeah, she just arrived. It wasn't a decision at all. Sometimes when you're writing, the characters really do take over and really do, just decide how the book is going to be. Whatever plans you might have might not be relevant. Yeah.
Hi, Professor Chang. I was your student at Canadian Review Workshop at Canadian.
Good to see you. Wow. Anybody that I knew was in Cleveland.
So I didn't know, but I wanted to ask this question because I like to ask it. What is your favorite book, or are there any works that you wish you forgot and could reread because it was that good?
Oh, wow. My basic problem with this question is that I'm always finding books that I like, and then, because I'm so old, moving on and being interested in other books, but there were a few books that I've been reading. I read this amazing book by Jennifer Masumbuka. The book is called Chintu, and it's a Ugandan novel about a family curse. Chintu is spelled Kintu, and that book took over my life for a year or two. I also really, something I've been reading for the last, 30 years or something, because this book by, maybe more than 30 years, this book by Walter Tevis, he wrote The Hustler and the Man Who Fell to Earth, but the book has been made into a TV series, and so you can watch it on TV, or you can read this great book. It's called The Queen's Gambit. The Queen's Gambit is actually a really fabulous book. And so when I was writing this book, I was reading a lot of Philip Roth, because he's a very, very verbal and eloquent. He writes about immigrants and immigrant families. He writes about, male frustrations of, issues. And I was channeling him in some places. But I love his book, The Counter Life. Those are just a few. Yeah. Oh, let me know more? Okay.
I just had a question. I'm assuming there are a lot of people deciding to do creative writing themselves, and I'm curious about, given what you do in your daytime, what advice do you give to people who are thinking about pursuing that because you often have to have a day job in order to do it?
So I think that pursuing writing, the decision to pursue writing, should not be made with any kind of assumption of monetary success. And so it always has to come in addition to whatever it is you're doing to make a living. Or you can do it and find something to make a living that doesn't cut into your writing time so much. But as far as I can tell, that's what writers need to do, need to think about when they decide to start writing. And once you sort of just acknowledge that, then where does the pleasure come? It comes not from imagining what will happen, but it starts to come from the actual writing, and then at that point, there's a kind of pleasure in it that you can't really get doing anything else. Most of the people I know who become writers, because I've seen a ton of people study writing, most of the ones who publish books, or stories, or poems, are people to whom writing matters more than other things they can do with their time. And that's the simple answer. That's all it takes, is to want to do it more than you want to do something else. Like I could say my laundry. But that's what I think. And so if you really want to do it, to just give yourself permission to do it seems to me the most important thing. Yes.
Hello.
Oh, wait.
The microphone.
Oh, wait, we have two. Okay, we'll do this one first, and then put it. You first.
Hi. I wanted to say I really loved the book. And each of the characters is so well drawn. And when I think about it now, I think about the end and the oldest son in jail coming up with recipes. And he has such a great spirit, or great he's.
People are laughing because they don't want to know the answer. But it's okay, because now they know.
It's certainly fine. But it feels optimistic sometimes. And,
I know, but lawyers have told me that if I write a sequel, which I don't know if I ever will, I'm gonna have to come do some pretty pretzel-like turns in order to make the ending happen. So that'll give me something to think about in the next, whatever. I know I'm not gonna write a sequel next, but I assume that I will have to think pretty hard about how to make the ending, change the fate of certain characters. Okay, there's one more. Yes, go ahead.
I enjoyed the book. I think one of the things I really enjoyed was I found it universal. I'm Hispanic, and I felt like the family, the dynamics, the food, just the visualization and the writing, versus, being Chinese, or Asian, that appealed to me. Given, for example, like Hollywood and how there's a big push to diversify movies and make them more appealing to the audience, a broader audience in general, I was wondering how easy identifying a process of publishing. I mean, from a marketing perspective or a even publishing perspective, you have the storyline. Is there a difference between you publishing and, for example, Tan publishing? There's a big spread in years. What's the difference?
I don't know if I'm like knowledgeable enough to talk about the difference between now and like the late 80s when Amy Tan started publishing. I do know that this book is not an easy sell. And the reason it's not is A, the ending is not unequivocally happy. B, like the characters swear a lot. I mean, I actually covered it up when I was reading because I feel like they're children present. C, like they encounter racism in a pretty unadorned way, and also there's no excuse made for it. Like there's no, like none of the characters is perfect. They're all really complicated and they have like bad problems. And so it was not an easy sell. And yet because I published 3 books with W.W. Norton and Company, my editor took, they decided they wanted to take a chance on the book, and they did. And then it came out, and some nice things happened, and it did get sort of optioned for television, and by somebody named Sam Esmail, because he told me he did some show called Bad Robot, Dope. Like erased this tape, I should know the show. But he told me that Leo Chao was just like his father, because he was the child of an immigrant, and I thought, oh, okay, this is the guy. But so it had kind of a weird life in which on one hand it was unpopular, and on another hand it was sort of like, I guess people just thought they liked it, and so some nice things have happened to it. I don't know if that answers your question, but it wasn't a marketing slam dunk. Yeah.
Thanks so much for coming. I really enjoyed being here with it.
Professor Chang will sign books for us, but before I need to thank you for coming, and she just did. Thank her for being brilliant and being with us. And also just pause to think about how all of us pause over the mystery of our families. And to quote James, a small piece of that mystery is in this book. And we are so lucky that the Home Brothers have made us welcome here, and that you are present, and that we are in the company of greatness. Thank you.